fuck with Shady, 'cause Shady will fucking kill you. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, bichachos and bichachents, welcome back to 7 Minutes in Evan. That'd be nice to have a little soundbite go right there. Yeah, we'll start working more shit in here. Today's episode is brought to you by Evan Lopez, because I don't have any sponsors yet. I'm man enough to admit it. We're riding solo. So solo on this shit. I built this goddamn boat, and I'll fucking go down with it like Jack Sparrow at the beginning of Pirates of the Caribbean. I love that movie. That movie makes smelly people seem so much cooler than they really are, like Jack Sparrow. Just in general, Johnny Depp, you know he smells. He looks like he brushed his teeth in 2002, you know. But I loved him in Gilbert Grape. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. The first episode came out and it was welcomed with open arms by 17 people. 17 unique downloads. And I couldn't be happier. Because you know what? That meant my mom couldn't download it 17 times. I know my dog didn't download it, so that's another unique person that doesn't normally support me, you know? So it feels good. And starting today, as we're going into the second episode, we had 23 downloads of the first episode. So applause break for everybody that downloaded it. And welcome aboard, everybody, if this is your first episode. It feels good. It feels good to finally have the podcast up and running. I think the whole reason why, like, I started one, let's go back in time to like 2009 or something like that. I had a podcast with my buddy Matt Elia. It was called Dos Leos, the Two Lions. We're both Hispanic. You know, I'm half Hispanic. I'm half white. I'm half white devil. And we had a podcast, but we lived in different cities. We would literally meet up once every 2 weeks. And sometimes we would record 4 2-hour podcasts in one fucking night. We would do it. We were psychopaths. That meant that, and we would do it at night. So we would start at like 7 or 8 p.m., record one. It would go till 10. Then we'd take like a 30-minute break. Then we record another 2-hour one. It would go, we'd be like at 12:30 a.m. Then we do another one from like 1 a.m. to 3, and then another one from like 3 to 5. And we would can them because we lived like 3 hours away from each other with traffic. And it just wasn't sustainable. That's why I wanted to do this one by myself, because I can manage to put out an hour by myself all day, every day. Plus, I like the flexibility, giggity, of doing it by myself, because then I can talk about whatever the fuck I want to be talking about, you know, and I can have guests on. All right, we're already talking about shit we talked about in the first one. Before I move on, I mentioned building my boat. I've always loved the metaphor of building a boat, you know, because if you build a big enough boat, nobody can rock it. And that's my goal, is just to be completely out there on the open ocean, just untouchable, not some fucking boss yelling at me, telling me blah, blah, blah. Not some goddamn studio head. Hey, we're trying to make money with this movie or whatever you're doing. We're going to need you to tone it down. We're going to need you to water it down. That's my biggest problem with Hollywood, you know. We'll get right into it. Speaking of Ricky Gervais, I think the best Hollywood movies in general, you know, it doesn't have to be made in Tinseltown, are ones when there is one writer and one director, and they're not funded by a giant studio. Basically an indie film. And some of the indie films, they're so trying to be indie films that they lose sight of telling a good story, but rather try being different for the sake of being different. I don't really think, like, when people try too much to be different, just to be different, I'm like, all right, I see what you're doing, and it's different, but it's not different for the right reasons. The movie Us and the movie Get Out, one writer, one director. Whenever one person is in charge, you're going to get something unique. And that's the movies that always stick with me, the movies that I really like to watch. As people who build their own boat and they do whatever they want to do. They make their own things. They or the studios are smart enough to get out of their way. I think that's what studios should be. And if you don't have any experience in old Tinseltown, haven't dealt with your own Harvey Weinsteins, the industry is a weird fucking thing. And I've always kind of just looked at it with binoculars from the outside because I'm like, nah, I kind of want to, dive into that pool, but I'm like, nah, I just want to dip my toe and be my own form of Hollywood, just where I'm just making entertaining stuff, but not within that zeitgeist, if you will, because it's weird. Because what happens is there's a ton of people that want jobs in it. They become agents, producers, whatever. They start getting involved in the creative process where they don't have a history or experience in the creative process. To make their job relevant, you have to be doing something. So they like giving notes and they like adding their name into the bucket of, oh, we should change this. We need to do this and that and that. Maybe we'd be wearing a silly hat, Everybody wants to make their job valuable. And one of the ways by doing that is by giving notes and putting roadblocks in and giving your opinion when really you should be just getting out of the person's way, I think that's why a lot of the best music artists, I'm forgetting her name right now. She has a song called Alaska, I want to say, and she had a video with Pharrell when she was going to the Music Institute, and he came and listened to her song. And she's a big star now, but her sound is so unique because she came up isolated on her own in the sense of she created her own sound and everything. She didn't get super polished by some producer and some label that they're just trying to make money. And you hear this all the time. It's like artists always like to say, oh, these record labels, they're only out to make money. That's their job. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they need to do to survive. And I don't blame it, but I don't like what they do to artists and what they do to the whole sound of music because they don't break it down as artists. What they do, they just look at algorithms. They look at statistics. They look at what chords make money, with music and what the repetition, beep, 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 beep. And you just like, oh, that's catchy. That'll sell. And so you don't get these unique songs or these people trying to, have groundbreaking music because there's an algorithm that's working and, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I see it from their perspective. Doesn't mean I like it. Yeah, that's how I feel about that. But everybody saw the Ricky Gervais, what was it? Was it the Golden Globes? I think it was the Golden Globes speech that he did, and he basically was just talking shit to Hollywood, all the Holly weirdos. And I love movies. Listen, I love movies. I've worked on a couple of cool TV show sets, and I won't say which one because I had to sign NDA on everything, but I was standing next to a huge star and worked with them all day. By the end of the day, I was so tired of talking to them and literally was ignoring them because it was so fucking weird. I was like, dude, you are not a normal person and you are just exhausting to be around. It's the weirdest thing ever. And there's a lot of good people, but I'm just saying that it's the weirdest thing ever that our culture is so fucking weird. We put so much value on eyeballs and exposure. And it's think about back in the old days. There was never a way to get out all this entertainment. It couldn't be this huge, what it is now. It's so overblown because technology's connected us all. There was never movies and all that shit. So the human is not normally designed to deal with that many eyeballs on what they're doing. So it was never as lucrative. I almost think being a thespian or an actor or an artist should be a regular job, in the sense of you go to work, you do your work, and you're rewarded for your work in a way that makes sense. I think it's so disproportionate to its value versus, some other jobs that are out there. I think school teachers, The fact that we pay school teachers so little when it's literally, I think, the second most important job next to being a parent. Because that's literally sculpting our youth. You know, you got your parents, that's number one. And then you got being a teacher. We pay them shit. But look at what we pay pop stars and artists and comedians. And, you know, even though I think the best medicine is laughter. So let's just keep paying comedians until I'm set. And then we can change it, you know, put them on salary. But I think what a point I'm making is that we add so much value to actors because they make so much money, and then they get, you know, they become idols because people see them on TV and movies and all these different characters, but it's not really them. We fall in love with their characters. We fall in love with Iron Man and all these actors. There's obviously Keanu Reeves, where you hear about his real life, but he's one in a million. But we fall in love with the characters, and for some reason, some people put value on the actual actor. And what happens is actors actually put their own value on themselves because they think, look at all this attention I'm getting. Look at all this money I've made. I must be worth something so much more, you know? And they think living in California and like just where they're at and in all these conversations they have on a regular basis, they think they're so much more important than they really are. And that shit is wild. That shit's just wild to me, you know? Because I'm like, you've just been playing dress up. Like, you shouldn't be talking about politics. Not in the sense of you should be saying what we should be doing, because you live in a bubble. It's not the real world. You know? That's how I feel about it. I feel like, you know, obviously everybody should discuss politics and you should have your own opinions, but just thinking you're one of the elites and like, oh my God, how dare you, you know? I like Leonardo DiCaprio. I think he's still out there rocking it in the free world. But man, when he like flew to Greta Thunberg, and I don't care what you think about Greta Thunberg, she's a goddamn child, you know? I'm sure she wants to change the world. Listen, when I was a kid, I wanted to change the world. But now I was a kid. I had so much more life experience that I needed before I could even formulate an idea what the real goddamn world was. You know? I wasn't out there trying to tell parents, how dare you? But Leonardo DiCaprio, he like flew to her and was like, she's the one, you know? God damn it, Leo, I was rooting for you. Wolf of Wall Street, that's in my top 5. Romeo and Juliet, top 15. The Revenant, I saw it once, but it was good. Had Tom Hardy in it. I liked it. Man, I don't know. People are weird out there. I also saw this, speaking of weird, was it Prince Harry is leaving the royal family? Why the fuck are kings and queens still a real thing that we have in this goddamn world? Who didn't turn the Disney movie off for them, huh? Oh, really? You're gonna fucking eat crumpets and shit? A prince and a princess. Not in a Disney movie. Listen, if you're not animated and you don't live in Disneyland, don't fucking call yourself a prince, okay? Or a princess or a queen. What? Why? Why are we doing that? I think it's one of those cultural things where it's just so weird to me, you know, because obviously I don't have one. But it's just such a weird thing. Like, talk about importance for no fucking reason. It's like, you were just born into this. You should be leading your country because if you were born. Like, there's like little kids like who are 5 years old that are born and they're just like bossing 1,000 people around. They got security and shit. And they're like, oh, go let me get me more crackers, slave. Full disclosure, I haven't seen them say that line, but I'm just giving an example. That's insane to me. That's why I think people are too hard on Justin Bieber. You know, and he's a grown man now. But people act like he was supposed to act different when he was a kid. It's easy to say that when you don't have those options. You know, it's always like, it's always the girls at the sleepover. Nah, I don't know if I want to go down that path with it. Listen, the people, all right, fuck it. We already put it out there. We got to goddamn say it. You remember when like, there was always people who were like, hey, you guys stop holding hands. Like when it was like at like a kid's party or something. Not a kid's party. Listen, I was a kid too. Let's not get weird. But there was always someone like where you were like 10 years old, this girl was 10 years old, and you guys were like holding hands under the blanket. Just good old fun watching a movie. And then one girl's just like, because no one's holding her hand, is just like, you guys need to stop holding hands. I'm telling. You're like, God damn it, Tabitha. You got to ruin this just because no one wants to hold your hand. I think it's the same thing, is that people who didn't have the life that Justin Bieber had were just like, he should know how to act. How? He's been a goddamn prince. He was born a goddamn baby songbird. I couldn't imagine that. Couldn't imagine it. Wouldn't want it. Wouldn't want that. You know? It's like playing a video game with the cheat codes on. It gets boring after a while. You got to keep upping the ante. You know? This is a great quote that I heard. And I live by this quote. This is how I practice great discipline. The quote is, if you seek a life of freedom, you'll be a slave to your desires. But if you seek discipline, you'll find liberty. Mic drop. Bars. You know? It's like if you just constantly are like, I'm just going to act on everything I feel all the time. Every big pair of titties I see on, you're going to keep having to up an ante. But if you see those big titties and you just go, I practice great discipline, and you walk away. God, we're not going to get any sponsors with this goddamn thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is brought to you by Organic Originals Productions, my video production company. Man, I don't know if I want myself to be the face of my own company now. They were like, hey, Evan, remember when you called discipline with a thick, fake Asian accent? Oh, I do remember. I love samurais. That's what I'm getting at. But I couldn't imagine being a prince. I wouldn't want it. I mean, I say that until you live the life of a prince. There's some prince in Saudi Arabia right now. It's like, my friend, do not knock until you try. I have 80 women in my palace right now. 80 women in a palace. Ugh, I'd be so stressed out. That would be so stressful. Dude, what is that? What is the thing that people believe? It's like where you're going to die and you can have 40 virgins. No, thank you. No, thank you. No. Even Robin Williams had a bit about that, R.I.P., where he's like, no, I want 40 whores, you know? That's not the point I'm making. I'm just saying that many women will be so stressful. Man. But they rock it that way out in the Middle East. They don't give a shit. They got oil money. That's like industry money. When you're just like, oh yeah, they're like, what company do you work for? They're like, oh, we don't work for a company. Oil work for us. They're like, oh, what do you sell? Oil. Dinosaur blood and bone. You know? That shit's wild. You just own an industry. Couldn't imagine it. Those Saudi Arabia prince, they do crazy shit. Like that's crazy. Obviously, that's like number one go-to you think of is like so many women in their palace. They fly bitches out there. Dubai, I've heard some stories. But they do random shit where they like, the young ones, you don't think about the day-to-day life, but like they're into video games and shit and like Twitch. They'll just watch people on Twitch and give them like $40,000. Just kids. There's like, I like the way you play video game. You come play for me, $40,000. I don't know what that accent is. I'm trying to keep it pretty ambiguous. Life is crazy for some people. It's crazy you're just born in the shit. I was working this out as a bit. And I was thinking, I was starting off the bit saying like, I'm proud to be an American. And then applause break usually, people are pretty patriotic, or a giggle. But like, it's so weird that people are really that patriotic about what part of the world they were born, unless you're more than that. It's when you want to keep other people out and you act like they're different than you. You literally were just born here. You didn't win some Hunger Games style battle to make it to America. You're just born here. It's just luck. It's all just luck where you're born. I could have been born in the Philippines. If I was born in the Philippines, I'd be Pacquiao, I'd just have some big ass calves and eat a lot of rice and just fuck people up. Yeah. That's what I would be doing. And I know you're probably thinking, Evan, you put Puerto Rican shit on everything you do. Yeah, that's true. I do. But I'm more in love with the Puerto Rican culture. It's almost like a religion for me, and obviously my heart goes out to everybody in Puerto Rico right now. I got a lot of friends and extended family that live out there, and it's heartbreaking. All these earthquakes. Shit, it's usually hurricanes. But obviously I grew up super Puerto Rican. My dad grew up with 16 brothers and sisters in Brooklyn, and he was born in Puerto Rico in a house that had dirt floors. He was a little jibarito, which is like a mountain folk. So he's 100% Puerto Rican. Just the man sweats sofrito. But he raised us super Puerto Rican in the sense of food, the music, and the violence. That's what's funny is like, I grew up, I got in a lot of fights growing up, just as a kid. And that's not me bragging. I was a kid. I wasn't out there knocking fucking GSP out. They were just other little kids. And I was fat, so I probably had some weight on them. But like, I always was down to scrap. I didn't give a shit. And I remember as I started getting older and in high school and shit, people would be like, dude, why does Evan always ruin shit with getting in fights? And I remember thinking, why am I like this? And obviously my brothers fought, and my sister, and my dad was a professional boxer. My mom's white and claims she's a Viking. She got her ancestry. She got a little pillager in there. She definitely got a little Viking. But my dad, I always was just like, man, where is this coming from? Why am I this violent? And then I saw my ancestors. I saw my relatives. And I was like, oh shit, there's Waldo. It's like, that's where the devil came from, That's why every Puerto Rican joke you've ever heard is true. Everything you've ever heard about it. We're violent. You give us a knife, we'll stab you with it. Can't deny it. I can't deny it. But I was raised very Puerto Rican, just with the food, the tradition, the culture. And then I went to college out there. I lived out there for like 3 years. And it was amazing getting to see where my dad's family came from and really engulfing yourself in the culture. It's cool to go on vacation, but you got to live there to really, that place is fucking magic. And it's magic because after you've lived there for a while, you start seeing the culture, how family is treated, how important food and laughing and having fun is. That's what Puerto Rico is all about, is enjoying the moment. That is the most present place I've ever lived. Was on a Sunday, everybody would be at the beach. We'd all be dancing, drinking, surfing, maybe smoking that mota, that creepy, and just really enjoying the moment and being alive. And the drums, like you go to a fucking grocery store there are people dancing. They got loud music playing and you're just getting it. And everybody greets each other there. You're eating food, people walk by you, they go, buen provecho. That means enjoy your food. You say gracias. The first time I sat out in public and I ate something at school, I could barely eat it because so many people were just walking by telling me, buen provecho, buen provecho. Buen provecho. And it's just that food, there's so many traditions and little things, and food is just so important that it's almost like telling you, enjoy your meal, like enjoy this moment. And it's a pretty cool thing that I've never experienced here in California. But yeah, that's how I feel about Puerto Rico. And the point I'm making is that more than just being Puerto Rican, like it's my blood, shit, baby, we all Puerto Rican, you know? If you enjoy the Puerto Rican food, the Puerto Rican music, the Puerto Rican beaches, the Puerto Rican women, careful, then you're Puerto Rican to me. It's a religion. It's a way of life. And that's what I'm proud of, you know, is the Puerto Rican way of life. So when you see me cooking food on Instagram and, you know, posting it and put a little Puerto Rican flag on it, it's not necessarily me talking about my blood, you know, being like, oh, look, I'm Puerto Rico, white power. No. It's me talking about the culture, this moment. It's beautiful. It's who I am. Enjoy it. Buen provecho. All these fires in Australia. One thing that's crazy about these fires in Australia, I gotta restart this. Sorry, I run into hiccups with this video thing because I have a limit of 30 minutes. So if you see weird cuts, if you're watching the video, it's because I have a 30-minute timer limit on my camera. So I have to reset it when I get close to 30 minutes. There's all these fires in Australia right now. Insane fires. And after looking today, there's something like 176,000 people have been arrested for starting fires. That shit is just wild. It blows my mind. Like, why are people... There was even a firefighter who was charged with starting a fire. What the fuck are you thinking, dog? You're just going to ruin Australia? But here's the funniest thing to me about it. Let me re-say that. There's only one thing that's funny about this whole thing to me. Some like Greenpeace group, and this goes to show you how smart Greenpeace is. One time, these fucks walking down the street, they asked me if I had time to sign up for Greenpeace, and I said no. And she says, "Wow, you're wearing a green shirt and don't even have time for Greenpeace." I was flabbergasted. I kept walking, but that bitch confused the shit out of me. I thought about it all night. I still think about it from time to time. I'm like, why does me wearing a green shirt matter? You're not the Bloods. You're not the Crips. There's no color coordinates of Greenpeace. You don't own green. You don't own green. You can't do that. I digress. Some nature group dropped something like 10,000 pounds of carrots on Australia. Thought it would be a good idea to feed the wildlife that was suffering from the fires that way. Yeah, let's just drop thousands of carrots out of a helicopter for koalas and kangaroos. You think these little roos are wearing helmets? You think koalas have a concussion protocol? You think they're prepared for that kind of blunt trauma forced to the brain? You guys didn't even think that one through. Why don't you create some carrot missile launchers? Oh, how about this? Maybe a carrot dynamite stick. Huh, Looney Tunes? Huh? Beep, beep. I would expect this out of some royal family because they live in the Disney world where make-believe can happen. What do you think was going to happen? Okay? You killed some little animals. You killed them. Statistically saying you killed them. Okay? At least a mouse. At least a mouse died. It blows my mind that they would think that was okay. I mean, I get where your heart was at. I get it. I really do. But you guys got to think these things through. I can give you my number. You can call me and we can talk about if this is a good idea before you do it. Dropping 10,000 pounds of carrots on Australia. Wake up, Scooby-Doo. Count Chocula. You go out there and get a slingshot. You were the kind of little kid that tried to feed your dog with a fucking BB gun. Just put a little treat on the end of it. Baxter. I just get upset about this, okay? What else is going on in the news? I saw today that The Irishman and Joker got nominated for an Oscar. Obviously, I knew The Irishman was just based on how long it was. They were like, well, this movie is long enough. There's an Oscar in there somewhere. You make a movie that long, you're going to have an Oscar-worthy moment, you know? That shit was like 9 hours. That shit is longer than Braveheart. That's longer than Titanic. You remember when you had 2 VHS in one container? That's what The Irishman is. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen the whole thing. I watched a lot of it. And listen, Martin Scorsese, he's a bad motherfucker. He made The Wolf of Wall Street, which is top 5. Top 5. No, but I've actually watched Martin Scorsese's masterclass for filmmaking. And the man knows cinema. He's the same man that said that Marvel was ruining the movie industry. Okay, boomer. Okay. Oh, okay. You know? I mean, I get what he's saying. In a traditional sense, yes. Is it the same movie over and over and over again? Yes. Does it still make my willy tingle when I watch it? Yes. And because of that, I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. I'm sorry. You might not like it, but I do. Endgame was my favorite movie last year. Did I read way too much about it? All the little plot theories and everything that changed. I know way too much about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not healthy how much I know about it now. Just based on the movies. I didn't really read the comic books growing up. But the movies, I love them. And when they all start showing up in Avengers Endgame, I fucking love that shit. Makes my willy tingle. I'm sorry, this is my podcast. And you're 7 minutes in heaven, okay? So shut the fuck up and let's talk about Marvel. But I mean, if in a traditional, sometimes I think that like, this is what part of it is too. Because I think about industries and how they change and they adapt to the times as they change. Because think about the Constitution. There's a lot of shit that needs to be updated. Joe Rogan has a great shout out to my colleague. Joe Rogan has a great joke, and it's on his special now, about how, I don't know who it was, Thomas Jefferson, but someone that he took back, he brought them from back in time to now, and he told them, like, showed them the Constitution, and they were just like, you guys didn't write any new shit? I wrote that with a feather. Like, I think you have to adapt as times change. I think the Constitution, talk about getting political, I think it needs to be updated. We got to change some shit with the way our voting system is, political system. It's obviously not working, you know? And I'm not a crazy conspiracy, but I just think it's obvious that there's so much influence on our political system with big business. Doesn't necessarily have to be like the Freemasons or this Illuminati shit. But when you're talking about these people who own all this money and they can kind of shift an entire industry with political votes, they're going to have some influence. They're going to fund that campaign. All these Hillary Clinton speeches where she went and gave talks and there was no transcripts, but she was making fuck tons of money. Come on. They're just wetting that beak a little bit. Gotta wet that beak. You can wet my beak. Please don't kill me, Hillary. Don't suicide me like Epstein. People don't forget. But because of that, because we have all this new stuff happening and the world changes, we got to change the political system. We need to adapt, you know? Obviously, this isn't working. 2 people. We're going to have 2 people run. Only one can be our president. Let's have a super team, okay? Let's get the smartest minds in every industry. Let's break this shit down. We don't need this face over here and this face over here. 2 teams. Da-na-na, da-na-na. It's goddamn football. It's the goddamn Patriots and the Packers. Everybody's so divided. Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Listen, are you a loony left? Or are you one of those irrational Republicans? I just made those up. That's how people get. They're so rigid each side. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm with the make sense team, where it's just like, look, there's some shit over here that's way too much. If you're extreme over there, you're extreme, baby. Extreme over here, boom. You know? That's how I feel about it. The original point I was making, Martin Scorsese, keep up. The times are changing. You remember when they had that song, Video Killed the Radio Star? It's like, I'm sure there was people when audio first started coming out in movies, and it wasn't just silent films. They're like, well, this is going to completely ruin the way we do things, and there's no more art left in it. I think with every change, there's always people who are like, this is ruining it. But the ones that survive are able to adapt. The internet's changed everything. Our entertainment level, it's fucking nuclear. It's nuclear. It's crazy now that we live in the 20s. You know, like we live in the 20s now. The roaring 20s. I saw this thing yesterday. I went with my parents, Sunday Fun Day. Went to this museum downtown. And they were talking about the Chumash Indians. That they lived in this area where I live for 10,000 years. Our society now hasn't been around for even a speck of that. How long the United States has been around. How long the internet has been around. And look how fast technology is fucking taking the fuck off. This podcast is explicit, by the way, if I never mentioned that. But I just think that's nuts, how quick everything has developed. And you gotta be willing to catch up. You can't be too rigid, you know? A great quote from my swim coach in high school, Mr. Mark Thibault, shout out. He had a quote on his desk. He was an English teacher. He says, if your thoughts are too rigid, you'll never last the test of time or some shit. But if you're too open-minded, your brains fall out. So you got to find a nice balanced place. You just got to think things through, you know? Welcome to Life Talk with Evan Lopez. I don't know if you hear that disgusting sound, but my dog is licking herself right now. This is the real deal. No edits, baby. Beowulf, you're embarrassing me right now. Dude, they can hear that. You're better than that. I'm surprised. Listen, you can quote me on this. I'm surprised no one, I'm sure there is an uproar, because there was an uproar about the Golden Globes, about there was no female directors nominated. Make some good shit. I forgot her name, but she directed a couple episodes of The Mandalorian. She deserves a nomination. She's going to be the one doing the Obi-Wan show on Disney+. It's going to be phenomenal. She's going to be fire. Bars. But I'm sure people are in uproar about the Irish Man. Oh, there's Irish Man nominated. What about Irish Woman? I'm surprised they haven't tried to change the name of the Oscars. Change that shit to Rebecca's or some shit. I just feel like Oscar is a masculine name. It needs to be somewhere, maybe even something in the middle, something non-binary. That's wild. I did see this thing the other day that they said that the trends going in like 2021 are going to be non-binary names. I feel like that's just going to be so weird with emails. You're never going to know what's going on. I can't even think of any non-binary names right now. Can you? Cool. We'll end on this topic. I saw Jared Leto. He came out with a new trailer. The Morbius or something? Morbius. It's like a Marvel movie where he's like a vampire or some shit. I hate Jared Leto. I hate everything he stands for. He looks like a goddamn squirrel that turned into a human through a wish. He looks like one of those Disney, like a prince that was a squirrel that got turned into a prince. Something about his face reminds me of a squirrel. He's a handsome squirrel. I'll give him that. But I can't stand Jared Leto ever since I heard about how he was with the Joker. He was one of these. I sound like the biggest boomer there ever was. He's one of these, thespians. But he's a method actor. Can't stand that shit. Can't stand it. I get staying in your zone and everything because before I perform stand up and everything like that, I get in the zone. I mainly like just to get isolated and be able to look over my notes and everything like that. But I don't like to talk really about some jokes. It depends if I'm doing new material. If it's new material, that shit's on Bambi legs. That's what I call it. It's it's gonna be pretty shitty. That's one thing about new jokes. I would have this joke early on when I would say if it was going to be a new joke, which I don't do anymore. I used to always like preface it saying this is a new joke kind of thing. Because I would say it's like you don't want a new joke. It's not like Cars. You want like an old beat up joke with some miles on it. There's like cigarette burns in the mats and shit because that means that shit's funny. New jokes, you don't know if they're funny or not. You just got to go. Fly away, little birdie. Let's see what you find. It's like you're sending out the fucking dove trying to find an olive branch or some shit. But what I've heard about Jared Leto is that he's an insane method actor in the sense of, you remember I was talking about how people try to be different just to be different? I think that motherfucker tries to be a method actor just to be a method actor. Like to just be so deep into the craft. That shit just bugs me. Don't sit right with me. Mainly because it doesn't seem authentic and he was trying too hard with it. People who try too hard, that shit is the worst. Like Daniel Day-Lewis, he's brilliant enough as an actor. What am I, fucking European? He's brilliant. He's brilliant, truly. He's good enough as an actor to where I think it warrants him being a method actor. Like fucking Gangs in New York, that shit was flawless. Flawless victory. And then when he did Abraham Lincoln, he would only let people talk to him on set as Abraham Lincoln and only about stuff that was during that time period. Like someone pulled out a phone in front of him and he was like, "Do tell, what is this magical device that you have?" I'd be like, "Yeah, Dan, this is what you're doing right now, Danny boy? Okay. Oh, this is a fucking wizard wand." Anyway, Jared Leto he was playing the Joker on Suicide Squad. He was sending like dead rats and used condoms to the rest of the cast just to be super Jokerish and just disgusting. And he was trying to get in character. He even sent to the cast's room. It was like a gutted pig and shit. And it's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like if I was on that, I'd be like, what are you doing, Jay? Mr. Leto, you think you can just do this? You think this is okay? That's how people interact? We're playing pretend. We're playing pretend right now. But I'm about to show you when keeping it real goes wrong. Okay? Goddamn again, Scooby-Doo, Count Chocula, grow up. I don't like that shit with Jared Leto. I don't know. method actors and people who take themselves too serious in general. Like, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. That's why one thing that was crazy is when all this World War III has stuff happened, and it looks like it's cooling down. Looks like we're not necessarily going to go to war. Watch next week. I'm going to be filming this from a goddamn bunker underground. Be like, well, guys, welcome back to 6 Minutes in Heaven because we can't afford to do 7 anymore. We got to keep our voices down. Shit would be wild. But when all of that was happening, the real fear, and I was talking to a guy at jiu-jitsu. Shout out to 10th Planet Ventura. Craig. He was, I believe, he was a pilot. He was in the military for like 30-something years, worked at the Pentagon, everything. He was telling me how serious this was when it first happened. And he was like, we are going to go to war. This is very serious. It's not good. And when you see the internet's reaction to it, everybody thinks it's a goddamn joke. Yeah, memes are funny, but I felt like there was an element of people thinking that it's not real, that it can't happen. It's like when people, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, when people find out there's actually going to be consequences for their actions, you see a sobering moment where they're like, oh shit, this is about to get real, you know? You see it when you deal with bullies and everything. They're not used to people calling them out. I've had people do shitty things and you're like, hey, if you do that again, we're going to have a fucking problem. Hashtag no tough guy, you know? But just in general, you see people, the wake up of like, oh, shit can go wrong. I think it's been that we haven't been at war long enough. Like people, it's gotten way too comfortable in life. And I think the internet has added an extra element of people not thinking that life is real, that there are bad people, that there, not everything's perfect. And that's the thing, is that's what bugs me so much when people start talking about ideology and they want to start breaking down society and what our ideals should be and who we should strive to be. And listen, I'm a perfectionist by nature when it comes to creating stuff, music, comedy, whatever it is. I always want it to be perfect, but I have a realization that it's never going to be perfect. It's always going to get better. So I have to be okay when things aren't perfect. In life, society, I think we should strive to be perfect in the sense of being good. Do I think it's bad to hate on people and to, make people feel not included? Yes. But do I think a true equality down the board, cookie cutter, when there's so many variables in life and personalities and who people are, do I think it's possible to have equality in that sense? No. Would equality be cool in the sense of everybody should have the opportunity to try out and to get the job and to just have the equality, the chance of freedom in life? Yes. Is affirmative action and all these things equality just for the sake of equality good, in my opinion? No. I don't think so. On any stretch of the imagination, on either side. I don't think I deserve equality. And, I have a joke where I don't say, I don't think I should get the same court time as LeBron James in Game 7. That's equality in some sense. Is like, hey, if LeBron James is getting this court time, Evan should get this court time too. Nah, LeBron, you got this, man. I just cheer. I'll be over there with the pom-poms. So I think that's what, and it feels like it's coming back. Like it's not gonna, it's gotten so far out there with people's sensitivity and trigger words and everything. And I feel like sometimes real shit happens in the world and you're like, oh, we got to reel this in a little bit. We have bigger problems than, the furry community. Like politically, I don't have a lot of, I'm not too rigid with anything. I can be swayed. And that's one thing that I love to see. And I think it's going to naturally go back to a good place. I think the world and let me rephrase that. I think the world is in a good place. I just think what gets pushed to the top and all the toxic shit is the toxic people do most of the commenting. The toxic people are the ones hating, reposting, all this blah, 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 all this anger. It's all the extremists. Because when I go talk to people in real life and I hang out with people, I never see these sides of people really. I'll get a couple crazy gooses here and there in Hollywood, but then I get out of the swimming pool. I'm like, okay, well, you see how that works out for you, you know? I think it already swinging back in the other direction because we kind of went too far. And not to get political, I've said that like 4 times in this podcast, but I think that's why Trump got elected. I think it really is because people were so tired of being told they're a certain way. I'm half Puerto Rican, but I look like a white male in comedy. And I think that's the weirdest thing that people, they use that online. They'll say a white male. Oh, great. Another entitled white male. And it's like, why are you saying that I'm this or, this or that or defining me as that? Like a lot of times people don't realize that when they're saying certain things, they're literally doing the opposite of what they're trying to achieve to that person. Say it again so the people in the back can hear it. I actually hate that phrase when people say that. I roll my eyes every time. Unless the people in the back genuinely can't hear. And then I'm like, I'll say it again. But I just think, be a good person, That's the only thing I really care about people. I don't care what the fuck you are or what you want to do or what you want me to call you. I don't care if you're part of the furry community, whatever it is. I don't care if you like to paint your dog's toenails at 2:33 p.m. That's what you do during the week. That's cool, man. Just don't do anything freaky to that dog after, okay? Like, don't impose. Like, this is my thing. I'm good with whatever people want to do as long as it doesn't hurt other people, okay? Just live your life. Be happy. We're only here for a small time on this goddamn rock spinning through the goddamn universe. Get high and watch the Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Blow your fucking mind. There's an episode on the Cosmos. I highly recommend it. That'll show you how insignificant we really are is when it starts pulling off of the planet of how big the universe really is. You start thinking, I shouldn't keep myself awake thinking about that thing I said 12 years ago that embarrassed me to that one fucking clerk at Macy's. You start seeing the big picture. But the Cosmos, I recommend that so fucking hard. With Neil deGrasse Tyson just fucking spitting knowledge. Bars. I love that shit. There's an episode that shows how we got dogs from wolves. Shit's phenomenal. It breaks it down of how we got all the way to this point to where dogs are now from the common wild wolf. Wolf. I don't know how to say wolf that good. Hashtag homeschooled. But that episode is great. It just breaks it down. I don't get why. You remember how I was saying, like, do whatever you want that makes you happy as long as it doesn't hurt other people? Chihuahuas, pugs, poodles, all the shit dogs, corgis. I have a mutt from the goddamn pound. I wouldn't trade that thing for a goddamn corgi. That is the fucking... A corgi's body is like they ran out of parts. It's like when you get something like a shelf from IKEA that's supposed to be like 5 feet tall, but you're missing a couple boards, so you just like have really short legs on it. You're like, fuck it, just put the sides on it. Now it's a 3.7 foot shelf. That's what a goddamn corgi is. That's a waste of a dog. I don't think a corgi could run away because you could just walk and catch it. I had a friend growing up. We'll bring this all back around. Matt Elia, former podcast host. I would like to have him as a guest on this one. That'd be a trip. He had a pug growing up. And it didn't matter if it was the middle of the night and we were trying to sleep. That thing would just come down the hallway. And it was blind too. That thing was a fucking result of royal families. That thing was so inbred. That's a big red flag, royal families that no one talks about. It's literally all the same family. Ooh. Eventually, that's why it's good Prince Harry left, because eventually, pugs, Fucking pugs drinking tea. Who would want a pug? I see people with pugs and I'm like, it was dying, huh? Or like, you lost the bet, huh? That's the only reason you should have a pug. Someone bet you. They're like, all right, if I make this shot, you got to take me to Applebee's or get a pug. And then they're like, I don't have money for Applebee's. Pug. Like if I had a kid and I was like, this is the big day, son. You're getting a puppy. What do you want? Pug. Orphanage. No son of mine's going to ever have a pug. What? Fast forward and I'm living on a goddamn pug farm. Fucking Evans Pug Emporium. Yo, if I get fucking pugs though, I'm going to train them to be athletes. And I'm going to get them that goddamn nose surgery. Get their polyps shrunk. It's kind of like shrunk. Yeah. I loved animals growing up. I keep thinking I'm going to wrap this up. But I keep hopping from subject to subject. I had a lot of animals growing up. Dogs were always the hard one to get. I've had a few dogs in my life, but those are like real animals. You know, they require a lot of attention. My dad used to call me the Dr. Kevorkian of the animal kingdom because I wasn't that good at taking care of them when I was a little kid. I'm phenomenal now. Got my dog on a regimen. But when I was a kid, I would just get animals and I was never too into the feeding part. You know, I'll admit it. I had some fish that they didn't go out on their shield. They went down the toilet. But I would just go to the library and I would just get books about animals. I'd beeline it to like the animal section and I would just get books about birds and hamsters and shit like that. And I would just love to look at the pictures and read. I remember I was part of a pigeon club where like Pigeon Weekly would email me as a kid and I would just look at all the pigeons of the pictures of the pigeons. Life was so much easier back then, huh? Looking at all the new cocktail food. Oh, that shit was great. Those were the good old days. I remember I got this pet snake. It was the only time I ever had a pet snake. Giggity. It wouldn't eat. It had a 21-day return policy on it. It died on the 22nd day. I spent like $30 on it. You know what the $30 is for a kid? Especially me, a homeschooled kid in Palmdale. That was like how much a Saudi Arabian prince spends on a Twitch player. That's a deep callback if you got that. I hope that made you chuckle. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this one's coming out Tuesday. Next one will come out Thursday. On Thursday, we're going to talk about the UFC. And any topics, if anybody wants to talk about them. You can always DM me. Slide in my DMs. Ask some questions. We'll talk about it. And remember, at the end of the day, no matter what, I love you.